Hey guys, welcome back. Before I get started, let me thank everybody who subscribed, and if you dig the content, please consider subscribing if you haven't already. Seeing this channel grow really motivates me to keep making videos and come up with content that I feel that this community will find useful. We have all seen that DPS player that joins, says high DPS, and then does less damage than the healers. Here are a few tips and tricks that will turn high DPS into high DPS. Starting with the gear and traits. The gear and traits typically are tailored to a specific purpose. Most meta builds are trying to achieve crit cap or maximizing the amount of trait interactions that form damage modifiers, and it is important to understand what these traits are and how to activate and maintain them for your burst window. Some examples are Inspiring Virtue, Big Game Hunter on Dragon Hunter, Forerunner of Death on Vindicator, or Twice as Vicious on Soul Beast. Understanding these interactions and how to trigger them before you blow all of your cooldowns is a critical part in understanding the build. A small side on gearing is you could have the exact right gear titles based on Snow Crows or Hard Stuck, but still not achieve crit cap because you're using exotic gear as opposed to ascended gear. Oftentimes, the math is very specific on what gear setups you need to use and what the amount of precision you need. So, if you need to swap a piece of Viper's gear for a piece of Rampager's gear, like in the example of Condi Virtuoso, that might bump your DPS up quite a bit just because you're not sitting at crit cap. Same thing with food. If you decide to use ascended food instead of the other food that's recommended, then you are going to see a DPS decrease even though you are using a higher quality food. You need the stats. As the game adds more encounters, there are distinct encounters that favor condition damage or power damage. In some cases, both of these damage types can perform well. Fractals is a great example of that you can run power or condi through most of them with success. However, there are some fractals even that distinctly prefer condition damage. This is even truer when you take into account things like animation locks in your rotation, the ranged elements, if any, in your build, and how reliant your build is on the boss to stand still for the build to be effective. So, if you know that a boss is high movement or something along those lines, then you need to pick your DPS to match that boss encounter. You want something range damage, you might want something condi damage. If there's a lot of phases, you want power damage over condi damage, and that's how you make those determinations on who to bring to the fight. Now, some people advocate for you to grind on the training golem in the aerodrome until you're pretty close to benchmark. However, I feel that once you understand the gear and the traits and you understand that the build is a good fit against whatever encounter you're facing, it is best for you to actually just go and play the game. You'll get better over time with your build and you'll get more fluid with your rotation and understand the burst windows and how to set up on the right weapon set when there's phases and all of that stuff. You'll figure that all out by playing the game. So maybe take it into the golem if you want, just to get the rotation down a little bit, like 10 minutes. There's no need to do anything. Another note is that if you don't want to learn a traditional rotation, there are low intensity builds. Now, there is nothing wrong with low intensity builds. Some players, especially from South America or Oceania, have quite a bit of latency when playing. And if latency is a concern, you almost would prefer a low intensity build. So these builds are just simplified. They're more or less the exact same thing. There's a content creator named MASEL. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your account wrong. Um, he's a content creator. He puts together pretty effective builds and has very thorough guides on how they operate. So if meta builds from Snow Crows and Hardstuck are out of reach due to physical limitations, latency, or you just don't really want that complicated of a rotation, then consider checking out his videos and guides if you want alternative options on which DPS class to pick. With that being said, I want to thank you all for watching. Please consider subscribing and let me know what you think in the comments below. I will see you next time.